Hey yo, may I interject? It's about time for communal reconnect. Power of the we in some type of context. Working on the us so we can get to what's next. Just that grown brother, grown sister type of flex. More like soul check, not just collecting checks. Facts, not feelings, is what we got on deck. Take the high road, so this here is high tech. Getting back to the real, the very thing that we hitting on. Pull up or sit down and tell me what you sipping on. Reclaiming kinghood, that is what we getting on. Real headlines is what we spitting on. So, hey now, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec, talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec, talk about what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. So how about we break bread now and have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's chop it up, man. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, may I interject? It's about time for communal reconnect. Power of the we in some type of context. Working on the us so we can hit up what's next. It's that grown brother, grown sister type of flex. More like soul check, not just collecting checks. Fact, not feelings is what we got on deck. Take the high road, so this here is high tech. Getting to the real, everything that we hitting on. Pull up or sit down, tell me what you sipping on. Reclaiming kinghood, that is what we getting on. Real headlines is what we spitting on. So, hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a sec to talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now and have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Have a conversation. Have a conversation.
Hello, we are the Real Bravado Network, and we examine Black people relationships from an image perspective. Image impacts and influences your life and life experiences. It also determines how you were treated and how serious you will be taken. It can also influence your mobility, up or down. Image is a reputation that you are known for, which includes your behaviors, your character, and your appearance. The Real Bravado Network can't complete these objectives without a forensic examination of the three phases of the live stream: her image, his image, and our collective image. The Real Bravado Network want Black men and women to win with each other. One way of doing that is to protect each other's image, but first, examining what we have done to our collective image. Please support the Real Bravado Network on YouTube by clicking subscribe, hitting the thumbs up button, clicking the bell notification for updates, and leaving a comment in the comment section. Here at the Real Bravado Network, we dare to be bold, not silent.
Yeah. Who's keeping it real? Who's really had a bad deal? What's the point of a pill and touching what you can't feel? Take each quote, let that provide hope. Now walk in silence and push the envelope.
How rap turned bad, I never know. I remember Ozone and Turbo and Curtis Blow solo singing. These are the breaks. The first time I heard a Too Short tape. Controversy on where it started and what state. In '88, I watched it elevate. It got so large, the corporate America made it circulate. Now thanks to that, it's money in gangsta rap. Try to eliminate vinyl, man, these motherfuckers done snap. I feel like that was direct blow, aimed toward the ghetto. They don't fucking rock and roll, it's like taking guitars out of heavy metal. And I ain't gonna settle for that, so I keep my shit waxed. For my hip hop heads and my turntable and crate cats. Down to keep it underground, without the railroad. 100 million copies made, that's 100 million copies sold. So fuck platinum and gold, I'm on some next level, yo. Make the scientists add an element to the periodical. I'm Christopher Columbus, I'm unchartable. Until I hit land, the dirtiest nigga around. East salt, shit, black sand. And I ain't a liar, I do it for the money and the fans and the power that I feel. When the mic's in my hands, it be like
who's keeping it real, who's really had the bad deal. What's the point of a pill and touching what you can't feel? Take each quote, let that provide hope. Now walk in silence and push the envelope. Who's keeping it real, who's really had the bad deal? What's the point of a pill and touching what you can't feel? Take each quote, let that provide hope. Now walk in silence and push the envelope.
Yo, push the envelope, raise prices up and down like ski slopes. Ghetto wishes and lost hopes. Move past the slow poke, selling chopped up soap. I parlay amongst my people, I parlay amongst my folks. Spitting hip hop quotes. This rap life, this street life ain't no motherfucking joke. I'm daily dreaming about 30,000 dedicated fans. Real life one-man bands, DJ speaking with his hands. But on the other hand, we splurge grands. Rolling in a full-size Chevy Conversion van. Thinking up power moves, schemes and scams. And how can we make these G's expand? My next plan, credit card schemes and scan. Triple beams and grams. Before this thing called hip-hop, I take a first stand.
Time to make a statement. I'm trying to be your man when boys is trying to be complacent. My motivation is to inspire innovation. Without hesitation, we pioneers in this situation. Real MCs are chosen to create messages spoken. Hip-hop's a way of life that can't be taken from a joking. Now through it all, I stand and pledge my devotion. Let my words soothe the world like tough skin and lotion.
I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king and I will never knew. Plotting for my fall, you getting heck for treason. I don't have to please, do anything I feel. Haters gonna talk, don't listen to the shit. They tryna be like me, they know they can do. Can't even get close, I'm on a pedestal, sitting on my throne. My neck be decked in gold, I don't do no hoes, I've got a queen though. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king, I told you guys before. Ready for the war, to get me way much more. Gather all the spoils, add them to my kingdom. Shout out to my fans for pledging your allegiance. You get a reward, the best flow you've ever heard. I done been mixing with birds. I'm a lion on the surge, always pushing to the edge, facing arrows, never scared. From my greatness, I'm a servant, only under myself. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play it, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need.
Welcome everybody. Welcome back. Welcome back. And for some of you, yes, welcome back tonight. Thank you. Listen, for those of you who decided to spend a couple 2 times today with me, let me give you that. Let me give you that. Hold on a second. I got something better for you. Hold on. Where it is. Here we go. Thank everybody for joining me for a second time tonight or today for the live stream. Thank you for those who are coming back. Listen, we are up tonight, which I had no idea. We are up against it tonight, boy. We got the lead attorney streaming live right now. We got Il Guapo streaming live right now. We got Coach Greg Adams streaming live right now. I mean, brother, I can't catch a break, can I? That's okay. We're going to do what we got to do over here because tonight is going to be some work. We're going to put in some work. But before I get started, really quick, let me go ahead and...
Here comes the money.
Here we go.
Money talk. Here comes the money.
Shout out to 3D Radio. Appreciate you for the $10. I believe that's a super chat. Yeah, no comment, just pure support of the game. And oh man, a guy after my own heart who continues to encourage me with the $10 super chat. I appreciate it. Let me you know what? Because I got the double. You gave me the double nickel. I'm gonna give you the double. Right. And one more time. Yeah, I appreciate you. Yeah, right off the bat, we are hopping and rolling. Welcome everyone to the Real Bravado Network, RBN in the building, and we are a Black issues driven channel. And over here, we attack the issues, not the people. I mean, most of the time. Especially the issues that keep Black folk from being together. My name is TJ, and I'm your facilitator on this journey today. And we definitely have a journey today. Hold on, let me clear this off the screen because I don't want that to distract me. I appreciate that. And please, everyone, do me a huge, huge favor.
Acknowledge me.
All right, there will not be a whole lot of drops tonight and I know I like to play around during the day, but tonight, let me tell you something. This stream tonight, I have redone 3 times. I have started over 3 times because it's just that close and dear to me. Tonight is night 1 of the rise, I should say stream 1 of the rise and death of the Black family. And this one's going to be a little bit heavy. We're going to have some conversations, and we're going to get right into it. Let me tell you. Let me ask everybody a question. Let me ask you everyone a question. Those in the chat. Do you guys like gumbo? Hold on a second. I got somebody. Let me do this. Throughout the stream, I don't know. If I could steal a person or two from Il Guapo or the lead attorney. Anyone at some point, I'm actually going to come up because I got a question after I get through, and anyone is able to come up and talk and join and stuff like that. Hey, Maggie, how you doing? Maggie, the substitute teacher sister, is in the building. Maggie, I'm streaming. I'm streaming. When I get done with the streaming, I'm going to take about a 3-hour nap. Then I'm going to get on the road and I'm headed to ATL where Maggie, the substitute teacher, is. I don't know, Maggie. I'm telling you, I might have to invade your crib with all that good food you be cooking over there, boy. I'm going to have to do that while I'm down there this weekend. Gumbo. Do people like gumbo? Mr. Elemento.
Yo, you can't go wrong with some good gumbo in your body, man. For real. What? Good evening, man.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us back. Listen, good gumbo. Guess what? Yeah, good gumbo. Do you know what they call the foundation of a good gumbo?
It's a roux, baby.
It's a roux. There you go. If in order for your gumbo to be considered anywhere in the realm of good or tasty or, you know, the belly rub, if it can be considered anything in that, a good gumbo starts with a good roux. And let me tell you something. If you've been to New Orleans or anywhere where gumbo is like a mainstay, let me tell you something. These Cajun Creole chefs or in that style, they will probably sell you their firstborn before they give you the recipe to their roux.
Facts.
That's how important the roux is. Why are we talking about a roux in gumbo? Because of the subject tonight, I am going to have to build a roux, a good roux for this gumbo that we got today.
Okay.
So,
okay, let's do it.
I'm sorry, Messi Rashawn. This is supposed to be
As a woman, specifically a black woman.
Messi Rashawn talking about what's this, the long stroke stream? Yes, it will be a long stroke stream tonight because we're going to deal with something that, you know, we are all over. Listen, in all of these spaces, and Messi Rashawn, you actually made it into tonight's stream. She's going to be like, what? You made it into tonight's stream, Messi Rashawn. Listen, I done lost my train of thought, but that's okay. But we're gonna be digging dive all over this in this space for the last 3.5 to 4 years. We have been discussing the rise and fall of Black relationships. We have been going back and forth with who's to blame and who's to blame, who's holding more, who's accountable, who's not accountable, all of that. But tonight, and what prompted me to do this stream is the constant screeching of people keep saying, well, that's not how things are today. Today we live in different times today. And I constantly ask people when they bring that up like that, just give me a second, Mr. Elemento. When they bring stuff up like that to me, I ask them, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by when you tell me that we're living in a new day and age? I know the times are different, but what does that have to do with asking the question about how things are today and where we stand today? What has that got to do with talking about what actually worked? What has that got to do with any of that? And I think they say that because of the absolute resistance to actually working things out. I said in my stream, maybe, what was it? I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before yesterday. And I'm going to say it right here, right now, for those who are watching, those who are listening. I'm going to declare it again. I think it's about time for Black folk to say one thing one thing profoundly. There is no Black community. There is no Black family. That's why this stream is called, and this series that we're going to be doing is entitled the rise and death of Black family. I said it earlier today. We are currently living in the death of the Black family. To have a community, you have to have a common culture. You have to have a common culture to have a community. And right now, our common culture is thought rocket extraordinaires, Nug Nug, Gremlins, and Pookie Nim, and people like Ebony K. Michelle talking about our Black women should embrace single motherhood. Newsflash, Ebony K. Williams, they already did. This is why we are where we are right now. So today, as I sit back and attempt to build this room, we're going to take a dive into where Black families were during Reconstruction. And we're going to look at, when I get through educating, which I know people do not like to be educated. When I get through the education, I'm going to try to get through it quickly, Messy Michon. I'm going to do my best not to extremely long stroke. I don't got 12 inches. I mean, wait a minute. Wait, hold on. I mean, I don't have 12 hours. That's what I meant. I don't have 12 hours to get through this. But I got to take a little bit of time and I'll get through it as quickly as I possibly can, okay? So let's get into it because I got some work to do. Now, stick with me. And I do have a question to ask when I get through with this history lesson real quick. In the vast American history, few narratives is as poignant as the evolving story of Black families, from the roots of Africa to the current times here in America. The Black family has faced challenges and some triumphs, weaving tales of resistance and reinvention. We are the kings and queens of reinvention. But in the last 5 decades, the last 50 years of the Black family, we've encountered an unforeseen adversary, and it led to a dramatic shift in the Black culture. And I'm not sure if I want to call the adversary unforeseen, more of an unintended consequence. But what are the factors that contributed to our decline? You cannot overlook factors that like the entitlement programs, the introduction of the so-called the entitlement programs. It was introduced with the so-called intentions of aiding Black families, but some would argue intentionally fostering a dependence on government assistance. If you want to see a real-time example of the consequences of the dependency of the governmental assistance and entitled programs, go check out my girl Messy Michon lives every day. Go check out her channel. If I got Mr. Coon Lee or one of the mods, drop Messy Michon's channel in the chat, please. Messy Michon goes over there and does a fantastic, funny, exasperating analysis of the bulk of our community and what entitlement and government assistance and dependency on that has done to us. Her channel is littered. It's like a graveyard of what entitlement programs have done to us. Messy Michon Live's channel over there. while it's full of tea, we like the tea. If you actually sit down and listen to her as she analyzes these situations that these people are putting themselves in and their mindset based on that's rooted in entitlement programs, you would actually come away with a profound sense of sadness over there. I mean, her channel's not sad, but she's a fantastic content creator. I'm talking about these people, the volume of people. This space would not exist on YouTube if we did not have a major problem. While these programs were established, at least that's what they told us it was established to provide a safety net, for people that were disadvantaged or low income. But what they don't really spend a lot of time talking about is how those programs de-incentivize families from staying together. In most cases, the structure of these programs meant that families gave the impression that they were better off apart than they were together. That economic reality that was placed on them at the time of taking those benefits, combined with the challenges of the modern life, had an unintended consequences on the Black family structure. One would say an intentional consequence on the Black family structure. Ain't that right, Dr. Umar? I've said it time and time again. Because women always talking about we ain't had no choice. We didn't have a choice. You damn sure had a choice. You may have not liked the choices that you had. But being apart should have not been one of the options. And those who accepted the entitlement programs in the 1960s, let me tell y'all something. Who accepted these entitled programs and helped foster men fleeing the homes and accepting feminism. You ladies that did that, you men, and I talked about sometimes the men came to the conclusion that I'll be better off out of the house. Those of you who did that, the civil rights generation, those of you who did that, you had a choice, and you did not have it harder than your parents and grandparents. You did not have it harder than them. And we're going to talk about the civil rights generation's grandparents. You did not have it harder than them. And you made the choice to separate. And we're going to get into it with Reconstruction. Not every choice is going to give you a soft landing. And I know I'm saying that from a position of 3 generations past that, making more money than my grandfathers or great-grandfathers could ever imagine. While no other group of people in this country had the exact same history that was vicious and violent, we weren't the only ones that came up through that period of time with nothing. Sit around, if you guys know any Irish people, sit around and talk to them. They were damn near treated like us when they came to this country. Obviously, they were treated a little bit better than us, but not much more. You know, the most detrimental part was not only the entitlement program, but the emergence of Black feminism. On its face, black feminism it seems to be a good idea because it championed, on paper, it championed autonomy, emphasizes independence, self-sufficiency, liberation from the so-called oppressive black man. From slavery to Reconstruction to the Great Society, when somebody needs to tell me at what point were our women subjugated to black men, when black women had to work right alongside of their black men just to buy milk, bread, water. Most of us can trace our ancestry lineage back to sharecropping, which we're going to talk about tonight too. The days of lying on black men from this side of it is over. You were not oppressed by black men. Most of you worked. Most of your family lineage worked. The husband and the wife both worked for the same white man. The man worked out in a field, on a farm, or in a factory, and his wife worked in his damn house, rearing his children and being mistreated by the missus. Because let me tell you something, big booties didn't just start with BBLs. Let me tell you something. I'm going to say that one more time. Big booties didn't just start with BBLs. The sisters out there, they were in really good shape, but they're African women. So they were rocked up real good, and these white women in these houses treated them like garbage. This independency, self-sufficiency, liberation from the so-called constraints of black men are at that mindset. Feminism, I'm independent, I don't need no man, it's at odds with the preservation of the black family.
I said what I said.
Though these two things paved the way for the black family fragmentation. Today, right now, we're about to do an anthropological dive into the rise and the death of the black family. We're going to do this over the next few streams. Today, we're talking about Reconstruction. Black families, where they were at Reconstruction. We're going to go over the black family's beliefs, their attitude, and their behaviors, and how they viewed one another. I'm going to take you on a journey through one of the most transformative periods in American history, and that's called Reconstruction. The very fabric of black families evolved dramatically from the beginning of Reconstruction through the middle, all the way to the ending of it. Our aspirations, our struggles, our triumphs, it tells a compelling story. But first, we need to educate you on Reconstruction. But before we start that,
Here comes the money.
Here we go.
Money talk. Here comes the money.
speaking of the good lady, the princess of tea, Messy Mashawn is in the building. Messy Mashawn live. Thank you, ma'am, for stopping by this long stroke stream that we're doing over here. But it's Messy Mashawn. It's the start of the pivot. Thank you for the $9 to $10 super sticker, and I appreciate that. And because Mashawn, you gave me the double nickel, I gotta give you the double. That makes a dime bag, baby. That makes a dime bag. I'm talking like I've never smoked weed, so I don't, but I talk like it. I've been around a lot of weed smokers, boy. I've had a lot of contact highs. I can tell you that. I can tell you that. I've had a lot of unintended contact highs. Whew, some people I work with just sit next to them jokers. My God. All right. Mr. Elemental, are you ready?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. So what is Reconstruction? What is Reconstruction, everybody? Reconstruction refers to the period following the Civil War from about 1865 to about 1877. During this time, the United States was struggling with the reintegrating of the South into the Union and wrestling with determining the legal status of Africans in this country. So this was a time of like a really bad political and social and economic upheaval in this country. It was a bad time in this country for the country, because now all of a sudden you got almost 4 million people that are now citizens. And through the process, various conflicts erupted. So I want you, because I don't want to, I brought something else in to talk about Reconstruction. So y'all just give me a second and go ahead and take a look.
The American Civil War ended in 1865, and a new conflict immediately began. The North won the First War, the South won the Second. To truly understand American history, one needs to understand how this happened and why. The years immediately following the end of the Civil War, 1865 to 1877, are known in American history as Reconstruction. What should have been a glorious chapter in America's story, the full integration of 3.9 million freed slaves, instead became a shameful one. It began with the assassination of Republican President Abraham Lincoln. 1 week after the Civil War effectively ended, the one man with the political savvy and shrewdness to have guided Reconstruction was gone. His successor was Vice President Andrew Johnson, a Tennessee Democrat. Johnson was the rare Southern politician who stayed loyal to the Union during the Civil War. Lincoln added him to his re-election ticket in 1864 as a gesture of wartime bipartisanship, but Johnson was wholly unprepared for the task. Under his Reconstruction plan, the defeated rebels would be allowed to return to power almost as if they had never left. The only requirement to rejoin the Union was that they agree to ratify the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery. This was fine with the old Southern Democratic ruling class. By agreeing to abolish slavery, they would actually increase their political power. Whereas the Constitution's old 3/5 clause limited slave states to counting only 3/5 of their slaves for the purpose of determining representation in Congress, after the Civil War, the Southern states were able to count 100% of the freed slaves. This would ensure the return to Congress of Southern Democrats and in even greater numbers than before the rebellion, allowing them, with the help of their Democratic Party allies in the North, to fight Republican efforts to secure the citizenship rights of the former slaves. Johnson's plan set off 3 years of bitter political warfare. The Republicans in Congress created their own congressional Reconstruction plan. Still in the overall majority there, they reorganized 10 of the Southern states into military occupation zones, requiring them to write new state constitutions that recognized black civil rights before they could be readmitted to the Union. Over fierce Democratic opposition, the Republicans also managed to pass 2 new amendments to the Constitution, the 14th and 15th Amendments, guaranteeing due process in law and voting rights in elections. Those rights enabled the former slaves to help elect new state governments, to hold office, and even to send the first black representatives and senators to Congress, all Republicans. Most important, in 1869, with the help of 500,000 votes from newly enfranchised blacks, a new Republican president, Ulysses S. Grant, took office. Grant was solidly behind the Congressional Reconstruction Plan. But a new problem arose. Disgruntled Southern whites organized themselves into ad hoc militias to terrorize Southern blacks and their white Republican supporters into silence.
I'm going to stop real quick. How in the hell do you get the right to dictate anything when you lost?
Because you have the ear of the people that voted for you. Those people can be people of power in positions of power that know how to rally the troops. That's all that is. He said because they lost, they had ad hoc militias. So you mad and you gonna go and round up you a posse and make change, huh?
I mean, okay. I got some thoughts on it, but I don't want to take us too far off course from this. Miss Ashley, I don't know if you're still there, but I brought that up. Let me tell you something. It's not exclusively Black women's fault that we are here. It's not Black women's fault exclusively. However, Black women select who they have children with. And in the last 50 years, for whatever the rationales you want to throw out, Black women have decided to take feminists, to adopt the feminist movement, which wasn't their fight. White women convinced Black women that they were having the same problems with their man that they were having with their white man. Notice white women didn't leave their husbands. They just wanted to go to work so they can buy their own Birkin bags. Come on, man, keep it a buck. That's the only... White women got mad because they wanted their own bank accounts. Their husbands are like, fuck you, I gotta go work. I'll give you an allowance, and I'm gonna control tightly these finances. White women got mad. They needed an ally. They convinced Black women that they were being subjugated to because Black women weren't in the workforce and they were taking remedial jobs, as most of them were domestic workers, and they convinced these sisters to take up their fight. If you need a partner in crime for a fight, a Black woman is always a good ally.
A Black person, period.
Yes.
just saying. Just saying.
Hell, even Black men, unfortunately, today back down from Black women, which I got a problem with that. So there are some very strategic things that our women on a collective level have done to contribute to the demise of the Black family structure. It is not their fault entirely, but the piece that belongs to them is devastating because women have such an important role in the passing on of legacy. You choose whose legacy gets to be passed on.
Very true.
I'm just saying. Let's get back to it.
The largest and most famous of these militias went by a still familiar name, the Ku Klux Klan. President Grant fought the Klan and other like-minded terror groups. But the fight required an extended military intervention to keep the peace, and that cost time and money. Grant also had to deal with Northern Democrats who were sympathetic to Southern racism. With each new election, 1868, 1870, and 1872, they gained more congressional seats and more power. And then in 1873, a major financial depression began. Economically desperate, anxious to put the remnants of the Civil War behind them, voters gave control of the House of Representatives back to the Democrats in the 1874 midterm elections. Grant left office in 1877. Soon after, the last Republican state governments in the South were overthrown. Black voters were disenfranchised, Jim Crow racial segregation became the order, and the South returned to social and economic backwardness. What could we have done better? First, We should have imposed a real occupation on the defeated Confederacy until a new political generation grew up in the South which learned a newer lesson about race and rights than white supremacy. Second, we should have gotten land ownership into the hands of the freed slaves. And
you know what he's talking about? Do you know what he's talking about? What promise? What is the promise? The biggest failed promise that this country has had to black folk.
Come on, man. 40 acres and a mule.
40 acres and a mule. Each family was promised 40 acres and a mule.
40.
And I don't understand why we still got some kind of faith and trust in thinking that these people are going to come rescue us. They're not going to fix us. They're not going to. I keep saying, the United States power struggle benefits from us not being together, and our dumbasses just keep pretending like they don't. The economy is on the backs of single black folk. Nearly $6 trillion. We got black folks as a collective got more money than Russia.
Spending power is massive. It's massive.
But we want to buy eyelashes, weaves, Jordans, and Hellcat Chargers. Or Challengers.
Brought the South into the same world of free markets, economic mobility, small-scale manufacturing and industry that Lincoln's Republicans advocated. But the truth is that the North had won the war, but the South had won the peace.
Like that. Just like that. Here's an overview, the mainstay to consider when you're thinking about Reconstruction. Reconstruction was supposed to reunify the nation, establish rights for enslaved Africans. Notice I'm not calling them African Americans or enslaved Africans, because that's what we were. It was supposed to be a time for economic rebuilding. It was supposed to be a time for political power sharing. It was a time that we're supposed to establish supposed to be used to establish the legal framework to make Africans full citizens of the United States. But what came out of that was the Southern resistance, the birth of the Klan, Jim Crow, and setting us back. One of the things that I want to talk about real quick, when you're talking about the 40 acres and the mule, one of the things I want to talk about is Abraham Lincoln and how Abraham Lincoln is celebrated for freeing the slaves when he did no such thing. We talking about rewriting history. I'm telling you guys right now, go read the Emancipation Proclamation. Wait, before you read that, there were 2 letters that Lincoln wrote to the Confederacy. 2. Each letter said, the first one was a threat. If you do not rejoin the Union, I will free your slaves. The second one was, if you don't rejoin the Union, I will free your slaves by this date. And then read the Emancipation Proclamation. The Emancipation Proclamation does not end slavery. It only released slaves from their ownership in the Confederate States only. So that means the North still had slavery. That means the United States territories during that time still had slavery. The United States, what they call them, the Yankees, the United States military, not the Confederate, but the Union, they had slaves. This notion that the Emancipation Proclamation ended slavery is some bullshit. And the notion that Lincoln was somehow just morally opposed to slavery is also some bullshit. Because he also said on multiple occasions that if I can end this war, reunite the country without ending slavery, I would do it. The only thing Lincoln cared about was winning. And he was not opposed to shipping all of those Africans back to a country, to a continent, because we don't know what country they came from, most of them. DNA didn't exist back then. Shipping them back to a continent just to make things, more kosher. But we celebrate Abraham Lincoln in our church, in our schools, in our homes, everywhere, like he's the great emancipator, and he's not. Lincoln is a phenomenal military strategist. The Reconstruction era, it spanned it from 1865 to 1877, 1876. Started to become, the Reconstruction era today is like, it's starting to become a lost period in African history. Following the Civil War, the nation faced a daunting task of, like I said, reintegrating the Confederate States into the Union, and then concurrently figuring out what to do with these new emancipated Africans. And how they can carve out a space for themselves in society that had for centuries did not see them as human, but in fact viewed Africans as property or a pet at best. Let me tell you something, how they actually viewed us more like a pet than property. I guess you view your pet as a property, but they actually viewed us more as a pet. These wealthy white landowners would actually go out and buy children slaves for their children, like they would go out, like you would go out and buy a dog or a cat.
What else could you ask for, right? What better way to flex your power than to pay for life, regardless of how much worth you put on that life, right? But that's how they clearly showed people of color in those times how much they cared about them. Like you said, right? Is it a pet? Is it property? Nah, it's all property, because they don't even treat their pets that way. Go back and read your history about how our oppressors treated their pets. They
treated their pets better than they did the people that they owned.
Trust and believe.
We're about to start getting into now the family, the Black family. Like immediately after the Civil War, that was a grim picture for Black families. One of the most heart-wrenching struggles that a former enslaved Africans had to deal with was they had to attempt to reunite with their families. one of the things that we don't spend a lot of time talking about anymore when we talk about slavery, we just talk about the beating and the subjugation. What we don't talk about is how families were dismantled. Your mother shipped off somewhere. You in Mississippi, but your mother is so you're 8 years old, but your mother is sold to some guy in North Carolina. Your father is sold off to some guy in Alabama. Your two sisters are sent up to Kentucky. Your grandmother and grandfather, they're still there, but next year they get hung because they're too damn old to work anymore. So they get killed, exterminated, put down, put to sleep viciously because they're no longer useful.
They no longer serve the purpose of why Africans were brought here in the first place.
So Black folk, during the start of Reconstruction, had to do the one thing. If those individuals could look at us now, they had to go and do the daunting task of trying to find their families. Sisters trying to find brothers, brothers trying to find mama and daddy trying to find each other. And it's not like they were like free to travel and had resources to do it. Because even within the search for them couldn't mean their demise. For the attempt to look at them. And then where did we start? And where did we start to look? How do we even begin to look? We heard a rumor. We heard a story about that my mom is somewhere outside of a small little town in Memphis, and I'm in, the Delta of Mississippi. I think she's somewhere up there. And her name might have been changed. Or she might have been sold off again. Maybe she's somewhere in Missouri now. And then your husband looking for his wife, and then if he does find her, she's the wife of somebody else, and got his kids now. Let's talk about the stepdaddy phenomenon right now, as it relates to this this period of time. Here's another reason why Black men are more likely to be fucking stepfathers than anything else. Because most of the time on these plantations, their wives bore the children of the man who owned the land. And oftentimes this Black man had to raise and have this landowner's child calling him Pa. But he got curly hair.
Because that child ain't white. Believe it. That child is Black.
Right. And not a word was uttered. Black men had to, during that time, African men during that time, if the landowner or his brother or his uncle or his daddy decided that your woman that you claim to be your woman, who you jumped a broom to say that's your wife, but she's really not your wife because they don't recognize African maritals because, property and animals can't marry. He decides that while you in there having dinner in your slave's quarter, he wants your woman. He just opens the door. Hey, Cheryl, come here. Come take care of Master. Let's go for a walk. And you know what that meant. There were times he did it right in front of him. Didn't even matter. The institution of slavery had brutally torn families apart. And selling off members as one would like they were commodities resulted in widespread family separation. And this compounded by the overarching economic hardships placed on Black families. The majority of these newly freed Africans lacked access to land or any meaningful resource. This led to what we now know as sharecropping.
Freedom's Village is a story that takes place during the Civil Rights Movement in Fayette County. It sheds light on the time when hundreds of Black Americans were getting evicted from their homes for registering to vote, and illustrates the white landowners' exploitation of sharecroppers at the time. But what exactly is sharecropping? Sharecropping is a legal arrangement in which a landowner rents land and resources to a farmer tenant and receives a portion of the crops produced on that land as payment. It existed in various parts of Europe, Africa, and Asia, but became especially widespread in the American South after the Civil War. Sharecroppers usually paid landowners with half to two-thirds of the crops produced. In addition, a share was sometimes given to local merchants, who provided food, tools, and other resources to the tenants. While this system may seem mutually beneficial, it was often used to exploit formerly enslaved Black Americans. In fact, sharecropping became so widespread because white plantation owners had large amounts of land with no workers, and newly freed Black farmers had very limited skill sets and options for work. Sharecropping creates an imbalanced power dynamic between landowner and tenant, not only due to the historical context, but because it is remarkably easy to take advantage of farmers trapped in this system. For example, landowners often artificially inflated prices and charged high interest rates. If the prices were disputed, they'd threaten eviction, which left farmers powerless, especially if they had families to provide for. In addition, farmers with unpredictable or irregular harvests were at a significant disadvantage and were often kept indebted. So although they have been freed, Black sharecroppers were kept tied to the land they worked on and remained under the power and influence of the white landowners, which is precisely why sharecropping in the American South has been largely considered simply another form of slavery. Sharecropping remained widespread in the South for many decades after the Reconstruction era, but significantly dropped off in the 1930s due to the Great Depression, the mechanization of farm work, and an increase in unions protesting the mistreatment of sharecroppers. However, they had not entirely disappeared. In 1960, white landowners evicted 257 Black sharecroppers from their land for registering to vote. For 2 years, these evicted tenants and their families camped in Tent City, aka Freedom's Village.
Really quick, hey, Miss Ashley, I just saw you post something in the chat. I did a stream and I just posted it. I posted the link in the chat. I did a stream called, it was called A Black Man Can't Lead, and it talked about buck breaking and Willie Lynch. Mm-hmm. Not only were the women slaves were brutally raped. We got to use the word raped around here. But the slave owners, the landowners, they did the men the same way as a way to emasculate them. I just put a link in the chat of the stream that we talked about that.
But please don't just think it was about emasculation. There was pleasure involved in that.
I just want, I get it.
No, you got it. You have to know that, right? Yeah. It wasn't just a form of torture,
and there was
pleasure in that shit too.
And they did it out in the open,
in front of everybody,
in front of their wife, their brothers. They would take turns. Oh my God, right. They would take turns.
They got the nerve to call somebody savage. They got the nerve to point their fucking finger at somebody.
Yep. All right, y'all. Despite these overwhelming odds, Black families also tasted some success. The family unit metamorphed into a cornerstone for asserting their newfound rights and freedoms. Listen, churches were built, communities sprouted up all over the country, and the nuclear Black family was born in Reconstruction in a profound act of resistance against African chattel slavery history that denied Africans the sanctity of a formal union. Most African couples who lived together as husband and wife on the plantation ran out and got their formal family recognized by the state, which elevated the African marital rate in the census to over 90%. Being together as a family unit is the cathartic exorcism of the demons that they went through. And today, we spit on it. Those women didn't go, I'm strong, independent, I don't need no man. Those women did not talk about, I need a six-figure man. The men weren't talking about, I need a boss babe, or I need a BBL type chick, or I need this, a ride or die, whatever bullshit we come up with now to describe one another. All they needed, these were people who had nothing but an idea. All they need was one another. And they had to learn how to function outside of being kept by somebody else. They had to learn how to do it together, and they had to figure out where to live, harvest, grow, support their own way, because the United States government reneged on their promise to give them their 40 acres and a mule, and that's why we talk about reparations. But I wish we would stop talking about reparations. It's almost 200 years now, almost 200 years. They're not going to give us a damn thing. Stop asking for it.
Dr. King said that at the I Have a Dream speech. He said the American government has given the Negro people a bad check, a check that has come back marked insufficient funds.
Right. Marriage gave Black people social status, gave them an institution, made their families an institution. This is what we were during Reconstruction, when we had nothing, when they were still trying to kill, not trying to, they were often killing us, didn't have shoes, wrapped their feet in rags to walk away from these plantations, went out on searches for their mothers, their family, their mothers, their fathers, their sisters, their children to be together. Oftentimes, a slaved man and a slaved woman who were on the same plantation, who did not have a romantic encounter with each other, would partner up and take the remaining children and raise them together. And they would go getting married, not because of love, but out of duty. And then I hear our women sitting around talking about they can't partner up with from a practical standpoint because I gotta be in love. Love isn't a feeling. Love is an action. It's a verb. It's an action. It's what you do. Love is the thing you do. It's not what you feel. It's the thing you do.
That sounded like a commercial right there, man. I'm sorry. Love, it's the thing you do.
You
Like,
damn
no,
right.
for real. It is, but it is, though. It is.
One other thing that came out with family when family was able to get together during Reconstruction. One other thing became prominent. That was the absolute thirst for an education. Over 80% of those coming out of African chattel slavery during Reconstruction were illiterate. And the Southern power structure and the Northern power structure used that to disenfranchise them from the political system. Getting an education during that time for blacks was at a fever pitch. It was as important as a mother finding her children after slavery. It was as important as getting fresh, clean water. Today, Pookie's demon seed kid in school disrupts the classroom, and now his Thoughtzilla mama want to go up there and jump on the teacher. I'm gonna drop the link for anyone who dares to want to come up, because I have a question. And Mr. Elemento, I just dropped the link for anyone that wants to come up. And I always beg people to come up, and people don't want to come up. I'm not that hard to deal with, I promise you. But I have one question for everyone. One discussion question. The only time we can be family is when there's an existential threat to both of us. Is that the only time we can be families, when it's life or death? Miss Jew, I don't care nothing about you being white. Come on up. Just be respectful.
I think there is a lot of truth in that. And I think that's with anyone, even if it with friends. Once you get to a certain point, you know, the crap gets thrown out, right? When you're talking about life or death, when you're talking about winning and losing, and there is no choice other than winning or losing, all of your petty disagreements and disagreements, all of that goes out the window when you're talking about life or death of a family, of a situation, of a community. Nah, that shit can wait. We talking about a battle for survival here.
You got me all right, TJ?
Yeah, I got you, bro.
How y'all doing, gentlemen?
Thank you for coming up.
Brother, how you doing?
Van Zant.
Yeah, what's going on, man? So I was catching, I mean, in and out, and you know, catching a lot of the conversation. It's a lot of stuff that, you know, that bring like a lot of historical context to, you know, shape the whole picture, because a lot of people just don't know the level of games that's been played. You know what I'm saying? It's been a lot of foul play, manipulation, a lot of destruction. And when you disrupt people's ability to communicate with each other, they can't work together. You know, you inherit a lot of traumanomics. That's what I call it, because, you know, we get profited off of based on inability emotions, because the real currency in bringing people together is relationships. You know, like you can't build communities without relationships. You can't build strong households without relationships. So we got to get out of being more pro. We have to become more pro community, just as loud as we say pro whatever we're pro, you know. We need to be anti-ignorance and more pro-community. And I think that we all know what happened to us. Like, well, what's the solution? You know what I'm saying? So when we start getting into that, and what does mobilization look like? That's the conversation that really need to be had. There's been a lot of people that's restated. You know what I'm saying? Like we're really good at rediscovering ourselves.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said at the beginning. And listen, this series, The Rise and the Death of Black Families, is the march to the solution. Listen, I stated at the beginning of the stream, I don't know if you saw it, Victor, but I said at the beginning of the stream was born out of, I'm sick and tired of hearing people tell me when I referenced that we were once upon a time, we were a 90% collective married group, and married was at the age of 18 and 19 years old, bro.
Yep. Yeah.
We were that's how strong we were with the marriage. We were 13, 14 talking about wives, having children, building a family, all this, all of this.
It was a cultural norm.
And when we sit around here now talking about, well, we live in a new age and time, what all I hear is I'm comfortable with the death of our existence.
Yeah, I think we have to.
Reconstruction was the birthplace of the Black family unit. We haven't even gotten to the rise of it yet. Reconstruction is where it was birthed. The first thing they wanted to do out of slavery, it wasn't to go, but our ancestral our Africans that were enslaved, our ancestors that were enslaved, their first thought was not to go north, was not to go to Canada. It was to stay down there and go find my people. Many of them never made it out of the South because of the hunt, the search. Many of them were killed because of the hunt and the search.
Fugitive Slave Act was a real deal. Look it up.
Casual killing acts and everything, man. It's been a lot of sanctioned terrorism, really,
And so Reconstruction, even though we don't talk about it a lot anymore, and the further we get away from it, was the birth of the Black family. We were better off after Reconstruction than we are now.
Mm-hmm.
I think then it was important for us to be that family because it was taken away from us. We never had a chance to really solidify the fact that it could work. It was possible. It was what we were meant to do, is have that core Black family together, right? Slavery took that from the enslaved Africans. So the first thing that they wanted to do, because time stopped, right? When they got to North America, first thing they wanted to do when they had their autonomy back is to recreate the Black family.
Absolutely. Mr. Contractor, how you doing? You got to go ahead and unmute for me. You're on mute. Welcome
Salute to you, sir.
Yeah, welcome to the Real Bravado Network. Thanks for coming up. What you got to say, bro?
Two things. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna be quick. They didn't have a choice but to have a cohesive family structure, because even after everyone was free, because they weren't free for real. There was just a transfer of property from one owner over to another, but there was no choice for them to be a cohesive family unit because it's survival. Number two, well, you see, as soon as they got benefits given to them, they put the men out the house years later on down the road. So when there was no choice, they made it work. I remember as a contract over in Afghanistan, I ended up in a bunker with this dude, European dude, that he doesn't like Black people or melanated people, and he made his thoughts clear. Now, even though he doesn't like us, we were still in that bunker together because there was an imminent threat and danger. Death was right there. Are we the best Oh, forgive me about the curse. We were the best of friends now. So when your ass is in the grass and on the line, you'll be surprised what people will do. All of a sudden, we real buddy buddy because it's been gotten serious. But just from my observation, from what I've seen from my family and my friends' families, and I look back, the only reason why they stayed together, my only explanation I could think of is because there was no choice. Even if they were supposedly free, you just traveling on the road to go from point A to point B. Because me, I'm a travel contractor. You could be lynched. They could just gank you, and it wasn't nothing nobody could do. So I don't believe that the mothers traveling to find their kids was all solely because I love them so much. No, I need somebody to take care of me. There was some love in it. There was some love involved. There was some love involved. But you out here traveling by yourself and alone, you gonna you. It's not like there was a Kroger's or a Piggly Wiggly or a Giant Food back then. You know, you
Yeah,
need somebody to help you do this hard manual labor.
yeah. We were together out of necessity, but here's the thing: today, we are under the illusion that we still don't need one another. Anton, Christopher, any part of your group, Victor?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, no, I absolutely agree, Antoine, that a lot of people use slavery as an excuse, but that's not what we're doing over here.
No.
We're talking about the birth, how the Black family structure got even birthed.
Yeah, like Antoine, you can learn something from this one. It's education.
Yeah, I'm nowhere near talking about it as an excuse, because like Victor stated earlier today, this is something we already know. We know what happened to us. We know what happened to our grandparents and great grandparents. We know what happened, but we made a decision. Many Black women today that are single mothers talking about, I had no choice. My generation, because I'm the first generation of the single mama culture. If you born after between 1975 and 1984, we're the first generation of the single mother household.
That's pretty specific, you know. You gotta know where you are in time.
We're the first generation of that. A decision was made. And what we're going to do with this rise and death of the Black family, we're going to pinpoint when that decision was made and how it was made. And we can get caught up in who's at fault. I'm looking at when the decision was made and what were the factors that made that decision. Because I believe, and you guys could disagree with me if you want to with this, I believe there's a generation that's still living right now that owes us an apology for what they did. I understand the infiltration, the design, the system, but the moment we caught on to what they were doing to us, we did not have to continue to accept what was coming at us. And I'm not just talking about it from the political standpoint, just like we're still in mass voting for the Democratic Party. The jig is up on the Democratic Party about what they feel about Black folk. As much as I am proud that Barack Obama was the first Black president, not one time on that campaign trail did he make a promise to what he was going to do to the so-called Blacks here. This is not about hating Barack Obama. I love the fact that this brother is a shining example of what we can do. But he didn't do his job.
I don't know.
The moment we realized that what did Malcolm say, that we were bamboozled, hoodwinked, run amok. The moment we realized that the fix was in, we should have jumped off the boat.
I think we need to have a transactional approach when we look at politics. I think we just need to treat it like a store. You go in and get what you want and get out.
Get out. That's what everybody else do.
That's what they do with us. So, like, they don't care about establishing a relationship. It's a transaction. You got to be useful to someone's agenda to be exploited.
Yep.
So,
and next week on the afternoon coffee break, Victor, I do a 1 o'clock stream, the afternoon coffee break. Next week, we're going to start talking about that.
All right.
We're going to start talking about that on the afternoon coffee break.
Yeah.
Fellas, listen. There is just not enough time in a day, in a stream, in a night to go over. I didn't go into the great deal about the 40 acres and the mule. I didn't go into the Freedmen's Bureau. I didn't go into none of that, how any of that impacted the black family. But we will continue to march on. We will continue to march on this journey. And everyone, thank you for coming. Listen, we are on a march to 5,000 subscribers. We are 100 subscribers away from 5,000. Tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. Hit the like button on the way out. Share the stream, share this content. Come see us Monday through Thursday at 1 o'clock here, Eastern time. Unfortunately, there will not be a stream tomorrow because my butt getting up at 4 a.m. and getting on the road to Atlanta. But we'll be back here on Monday. There will be content on the channel tomorrow and Friday. But tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. And this is the first installment of the rise and the death of the black family. This was good, fellas. This was good.
I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king and I will never knew. Plotting for my fall, you getting hanged for treason. I don't aim to please, do anything I feel. Haters gonna talk, don't listen to the shit. They tryna be like me, they know they can't do. Can't even get close. I'm on a pedestal, sitting on my throne. My neck be decked in gold. I don't do no hoes, I got a queen though. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a king, I told you guys before. Ready for the war, to get me way much more. Gather all the spoils, add them to my kingdom. Shout out to my fans for pledging your allegiance. You get a reward, the best flow you've ever heard. I don't be mixing with birds, I'm a lion on the surge. Always pushing to the edge, facing arrows, never scared. For my greatness I'm a servant, only under myself. I'm a king cause I do what I want and what I need. I don't need you to nobody, I'm busy doing my thing. Mess with me and you could get forgotten, just let it sing. I don't play, I just win every day, I get it in. I'm a